What is up with Lynch? That's a good question because, I mean, hey, Grant, are we still waiting on Kyle Shanahan to get announced as his deal yet?
They still haven't said it. They still haven't
said
said
nothing. There's nothing
Nope.
but crickets there. So if you haven't heard nothing about his thing, we're not going to hear a dang thing about John Lynch right there. So, I mean, it's just I don't know what's going up with that. Everything's on pause. I feel like with them, with the Mostert, of course, I think that's more of them holding their ground, and then Kittle not moving, and then Lynch not moving, and then Kyle Shanahan, we're not announcing anything. It's on a little pause right now, and I think that's more true. Because if you look at even what they're trying to figure out with preseason, what we were just talking about, hey, training camp's supposed to be in the next week or two, but hey, we haven't heard nothing either. So I think it's a little bit more in the NFL standpoint. It's trickling down to some of these teams and why they want to move slow, because it's probably about, hey, we got bigger things to worry about. So that's a good question about Lynch. I'm not sure how much they really think he's responsible 100% on those drafts, because there's no way. If you're telling me, Lynch calls all the shots in those draft rooms, then let's not be naive. You think he traded up for Brandon Ayuk? That was totally Shanahan. And Shanahan pretty much admitted, hey, I love Kinlaw. I love going defensive lineman. Let's go Kinlaw. And then Lynch was probably like, all right, yeah, defensive guy. So, that's a tricky one. Why haven't they said anything?
Well, I got theories, but Leo, you go first.
I have a theory as well. I have zero facts on this.
Let's talk theories.
Yeah. And Shanahan, Lynch, what he talked about when he came out of the booth was being competitive, having that competitive energy, that competitive fire. That's what made him want to do that transition. Maybe they haven't announced Shanahan yet because they're trying to figure out what's going on with John Lynch. Does he want an extension, or does he want to move higher within the team as far as president? Like, what does he want to do? So maybe Lynch has those offers on the table, and they're waiting for him to decide. Once he decides, that's when they're going to go public with Shanahan, and we'll see from there. That's my theory, is they're waiting for John Lynch to make a decision on what he wants to do, whether continuing to be GM or move up in a higher position.
Perfectly reasonable theory. I have a different theory. Okay, let me try this one out. So remember last year, there was that report from Matt Miller of Bleacher Report that said there was a rift between Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. He got specific too. I mean, he's basically citing a scout in the organization who probably got fired. So one guy who overheard something and maybe took it out of context or didn't. But he basically said there was a big fight between Lynch and Shanahan, and that Shanahan didn't necessarily trust Lynch's vision for the team for the future. And everyone said that was a bogus report. And the Niners laughed it off. Lynch and Shanahan laughed it off. And Matt Miller was quiet. But Matt Miller he's not like an up-and-comer. He's been around. He's serious. I don't think he would just tarnish his own reputation. Maybe he heard wrong. But I've always kind of stored it away. Then we see in the Super Bowl that moment at the end of the first half where John Lynch is asking for the timeout and Shanahan doesn't take it. Seems like they're not necessarily in 100% lockstep. But it doesn't mean they don't like each other. I'm just remembering this stuff. And now we're here where Shanahan gets the extension and Lynch doesn't. To me, it's a slap in the face to Lynch unless I'm not understanding something. To me, it's telling him we value Shanahan more than you. And I'm guessing what Lynch has to decide is, do I want to stay here even if I have less power? Or do I want to go back to being a broadcaster? Because they'll probably pay me about the same amount of money. And I was good at broadcasting. And it's an easier job. So I guess I have a more cynical theory, but I can't help but notice that John Lynch hasn't tweeted since May 23rd. And to me, that's him saying, I don't know if I'm still the face of this organization. I don't know if I'm still the voice of this organization. I feel uncomfortable communicating in any way. He didn't congratulate Kyle Shanahan for getting an extension. He hasn't really, he's been underground for almost 2 months. So I don't know what to make of it.
How did he get that position in the first place?
Tell us.
He reached out to Kyle Shanahan.
That's right. So he got the job because of Kyle.
So
and now it seems like if he gets an extension, it'll be because Shanahan wants him to get one. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
that's a tough position to be in.
Yeah, and what if John Lynch taking the team from where they were, which is awful? What if John Lynch wants more credit?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't the exact person that they were going to have to interview until Kyle Shanahan.
Yep.
And what if he wants more credit? It's a honest question.
Yeah. I look, he's had some misses in the draft or up high. Akella Witherspoon, Reuben Foster, Solomon Thomas. But he's also made some very, very good moves. And I rag on Jimmy Garoppolo all the time, but that was Lynch. You know, Shanahan wanted Kirk Cousins, and I like Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins doesn't have a winning track record like Jimmy Garoppolo. Give Lynch credit for that. So I don't think it's necessarily right or fair for Jed to give 100% of the credit to Kyle. Remember, there's no salary cap for the front office. It seems to me a little bit of a petty, cheap move to not also give Lynch an extension. They can afford it. He's worthy. Give it to him. Hook him up.
I don't think it's fair to blame Solomon Thomas completely on Lynch either. Because, yes, he went to Stanford. John Lynch went to Stanford. But let's keep in mind, Kyle Shanahan said he builds teams from the trenches.
Correct.
What if John Lynch wanted a quarterback? What if he didn't, deep in his heart, he did not want Kirk Cousins playing?
Yeah, exactly. How could he force a quarterback on his head coach who got him the job and wants Kirk Cousins? What's he gonna do?
And you know what? Maybe he did. You know what, Leo? I'm gonna play off that. Maybe he did want a quarterback because he's the one that initiated and conducted that Jimmy Garoppolo trade. And Shanahan didn't want it. He told me and Grant were at the presser, and he even admitted it. Kyle Shanahan, oh wait, everyone knows I wanted Kirk, and I was waiting out on him. And that's why we didn't even scout Patrick Mahomes. You know, that's why he literally says, I remember it vividly. Oh, yeah, John just tells me, he comes, hey, we have this trade. We can get Garoppolo for this. And he's like, what? Huh? What? Oh, and then he literally said, he said he sat on it for the whole day and just said, like, yeah, fire it.
Fine.
Fire it away. You know, the heck with it.
And then he said he went into a mini depression for a few days after it.
There it is.
Give John some credit, man. They wouldn't have Jimmy Garoppolo if it weren't for John. They'd have Kirk Cousins making $30 million a year guaranteed.
And that's one where I think a GM, it's never good where I think where GMs and head coaches need to agree with each other. It's good to have that tuck and pull because one of them protects each other from the other. You know, just look at what some of the other teams are doing out there. Bill O'Brien, you know, John Gruden, two nutcases who have too much power. They don't have, well, the Raiders do now. Just have someone like check them like, hey, you know, I got to protect you from yourself. You're a little too irrational here now. So that's John Lynch right there. Hey, Jimmy Garoppolo, don't wait on Cousins. This is a guarantee, and I don't even think Cousins that great to begin with. You know, and they messed up from the moment they didn't take Deshaun Watson over Solomon Thomas instead, which maybe, and I would even lean towards he did. John Lynch wanted him. And so that's a perfect example of why maybe even Shannon's like, you went behind my back and did this trade a little bit and thinking bigger picture. Hey, good job for improving the team. But no, that's some of these coaches have a little bit of ego, no matter who you look at. Kyle Shanahan does to a degree. That's why he gets so cute on the goal line with his play calling because he's just like, hey, watch this work. You know, he likes to flex a little bit. So probably the fact that he thought you went behind my back with that Garoppolo trade versus just being appreciative. That probably not saying that really was detrimental to severity, but it's little things like that could probably trickle on and just really can irk some of these guys.
Yeah. I got one more theory. I think that 2018 season was very painful for the 49ers. They said it was all part of the process and they understood they were going to lose when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. But even after that, I mean, they lost 2 games to the Cardinals. They lost a game to the Cardinals where they outgained them by 300 yards. It was a very difficult season. And I think it was embarrassing at times, some of those home losses. And I think it's only natural when you have a season like that internally you have finger pointing. It's your fault. We should have done it this way. We should have done it that way. And that's why when Matt Miller said that there was a fight at the end of the year, it seems like only natural. I mean, if there's not a fight between the top guys of a team that just went 4-12 in their second year, then something's wrong. So it sounded right. And then what happens in 2019 where there's all this success, maybe Shanahan says, see, I was right. And Lynch says, well, no, I was right. And then there's this power struggle that you're not aware of. But maybe I'm just guessing. And maybe they'll announce this thing in 5 minutes and John Lynch will be here for 10 more years and we won't even air this.
Yeah.
But until then, I think this is fair comment. We are all 49ers with Sports Illustrated. I'm Grant Cohn. In the middle is Leo Luna. On the right is Jose Sanchez. We write every day. And we're going to be doing these hopefully about once a week for the rest of the year, around Thursday or Friday, usually to preview a game. But now in the offseason, we're going to be talking about the topics leading up to training camp if it ever happens. So, Leo, why don't you go first, introduce yourself, and tell the viewers what you've been working on recently.
Yeah, well, obviously, my name is Leo. I've been writing with Sports Illustrated for about a month now, I would say. Before that, I was working on Fansided doing San Francisco Giants articles. And recently, I've been writing on is kind of all aspects of the game, whether it has to do with salary cap or how does the scheme fit in terms of Jamal Adams. Did a couple player interviews with Jamar Taylor, who signed with the team recently, and just definitely looking forward of growing with Sports Illustrated All 49ers.
Nice. How about you, Jose?
And I've pretty much been writing with the team for about a year. I've this week, man, what has this been? It's been a wild week last week. First was like Kill's extension because of Chris Jones. I compared it to that, what that would have meant. And then the Mostert trade request. That one was like the juicier one that I know me and Grant love to pick on. For me in particular, if it was going to create a little bit of division in the locker room, because he's pretty much saying, I want out. Could raise some eyebrows from some teammates or even some coaches in particular.